Hello guys and welcome back to the channel. Today we're taking a look at the Super Bunker 2000. So what is this gun and why is it so good? This is the Tier 10 152mm QOLOP anti-tank gun. Unlike most other guns of this tier, it fires APHE instead of APFSDS. Recently there was an update to the gun. Basically what happened was the reload time went from 17 seconds to 12 seconds, and I was initially worried about the shell performance being nerfed, but thankfully nothing changed, and it is even more lethal than before. Let's talk about the stats of the gun first. It's incredibly accurate, the weight of the gun is 3 tons, the ammo volume is 2.92 units, so I think that's the same as X1 and pre-buff toe. It has a reload time of 12 seconds and the caliber is 152mm, meaning that unless if you put it on like a Paladin or something better in terms of the reload booster, you might be looking at somewhere in the 13 to 14 second reload range, although that would still be better than a 20-second reload, which was what was happening before. The shell this gun fires is an APHE round with a penetration of 342mm at 0 degrees, 294mm at 30, and 159mm at 60. Meaning, if you can somewhat aim, you should be fine with this thing. Just look at the autocannon players getting around with, 143mm of penetration with the Bofors. Anyways, after you fire the shell, it flies at a whopping 1,420 meters a second at the enemy, and assuming it doesn't hit armored angle above 78mm or armor too thick for it to go through, the tank that it hits is instantly obliterated thanks to 4.85 kilograms of TNT inside the shell. This is enough explosive mass to one-shot ammo and crew, and I think it should one-shot everything else. Even if you can't actually pen the tank, you will definitely still destroy the barrel and tracks. Lastly, being APHE, it does have a fuse, meaning it will detonate after some requirements are met. So the fuse sensitivity is 12mm and the delay is 1.2 meters. I'm not exactly sure what these numbers mean, but to be honest, simply put, don't expect this thing to go through buildings, but on the other hand, expect ridiculous kills like this. So how should you employ this funny gun in battle? Simply put, this tank is not something you want to push with. The long reload makes attacking the enemy quite a hard task because after shooting, you have to wait for 12 seconds or more, so don't miss. If you still want to go aggro on the enemy, at least have a teammate next to you, and play with a friend if you have one, and make sure they have some fast reloading gun to cover you. On the other hand, this gun excels in sniping and deleting enemies. After each shot, you can retreat to cover to protect your tank, and its high velocity, even rivaling most APFSDS projectiles, makes it incredibly good at sniping tanks, and you only need one penetrating hit. So, if you're a good shot, this is vastly more reliable than most guns. Even if you miss, you'll probably take out their tracks and their cannon, making them easy prey for a follow-up shot. Make sure to note some spots on maps that you will be playing on that you can peek out of and easily destroy enemy tanks before popping back into cover, because that is very important for a sniper or like just defending in general. As for a tank build, use a hull and turret combo that stores tons of ammo in big containers, because the ammo for this gun is massive at 2.92 units and Abrams can only hold 12 rounds plus 1 round in the barrel. If you're sniping, it doesn't really matter if your hull has no armor because you're not gonna need to expose it. Just make sure you have a stable and fast hull so you can rapidly relocate and not flip over. Instead of sniping, if you're more or less just defending, I guess, maybe go for a hull with a nice balance between armor and speed, such as the Export or the Abrams. If you're the type to attack the enemy, I recommend using a quick armor tier 9 hull. Maybe like the HSTBL that's really good against autocannons and stuff, a quick traversing high depression turret such as the Fox or Export, and use a down-tiered L44 because the QOLOP isn't really for you. For turrets, use something that has a good reload and stabilizer and won't traverse slower when you wield a 3-ton gun onto it. Aim for at least minus 10 degrees of depression so you can use more types of cover, including peeking above cover. I would really recommend a full Abrams setup because it's a very nice all-rounder, but it is rather weak to most down-tier guns and guns of same tier, so be careful with that. And I have been looking at the Expeditionary turret, and it looks like it's pretty good, and it has a pretty good reload booster, but it doesn't have any armor at the front. If this was a review of a plane in Aeronautica, this would be the verdict. But Aeronautica doesn't have heavily armored sandsides, so you have the Maverick out of existence to complete your jobs. To be fair, Cursed Tank Simulator doesn't have planes. Yet. Anyways, this tank is quite special because it fires APHE. The difference between APHE and APFSDS is that one generates spalling and shrapnel through its path of travel, and the other goes into a tank and explodes, nuking all components, crew, and ammo. This gives you some very cool opportunities to kill tanks. For example, on the Challenger 2 turret, you can hit the optics and kill the crew inside when the shell explodes. This is possible because there is no armor behind the optics. But this is not possible with APFSDS shells because they simply lack the shrapnel generation required to reach down to the crew. This is not an issue for the QOLOP because the shell literally airbursts above the crew like an artillery shell, and it also makes killing tanks like the Otto easier, or at least the Otto turret. You just have to hit the tank, and 5 kilograms of high explosive can detonate their ammo no matter where it hits. If it doesn't, you might as well report them as a hacker. For the most part, you're only going to be looking to have the shell go inside the tank because almost 5 kilograms of high explosive will do the rest. This gun should be able to kill most tanks, but I'm gonna explain the best ways to kill some of the heavier tanks. For the T-72, aim for the mantlet, shell goes in, Private Conscriptovich wins the turret tossing award. For the Abrams, aim for the turret ring. This is probably one of the harder tanks to kill with the gun, and beware of its composite screen. Besides the turret ring, there is also a tiny section below the mantlet that you can hit, but don't count on it. For Challenger 1, aim for the center of the tank. If you miss its weak spot, you can still kill its cannon. For Challenger 2, aim for the optics because there is no armor behind it. For everything else, aim for the mantlet or somewhere that looks like it has no armor. As a general rule, shooting the lower front plate should work for most tanks, but just not the Abrams because it is rather thick when it comes to its LFP, and maybe the T-72 if it's pointing straight at you, but I would recommend shooting the mantlet first. And definitely do not shoot the export hull because they put like a piece of anti-everything armor at the front of it, which is incredibly annoying to deal with no matter what gun you have. Or actually, on second thought, the high explosive could probably kill everyone inside, I'm not sure. So should you get the QOLOP? It depends on your playstyle, but I recommend having this very, very lovely gun in your back pocket if you're bored or people are down-tiering challengers. It's able to hold its own against similar APFSDS firing guns of this tier and even the tier above, and even excel in some aspects compared to APFSDS firing guns. The only downside is that the crafting cost is somewhat expensive and 3 entire cyberware. And if you're grinding tier 10, that's a lot of crates. And then there's also the chromium and aluminum grind, that's what, like 200, 300-ish? I'm not exactly sure. If you're coming from tier 11 to 12, I recommend just down tier L44 with like HSTBL, hull, export turret, and calling it a day. Or try to down tier like the Spud D or whatever it's called, maybe. Like that's also an APHE gun, but I haven't tested it out yet. But like the L44 performs similar to this, but with the added benefit of being able to slice straight through most tanks' mantlets without issue. Like the Abrams has nothing on the L44. TLDR, 10 out of 10 would nuke heavy tanks in one shot again. By the way, a few days ago I made a video at the end and I talked about starting a new channel that debunks Russian disinformation on the internet. It's a thing now, go check it out. It's my new channel, Russia Debunked. It's for a social studies class project and I'm working on this with a partner. We're going to be putting out some very spicy content on there, so if you're interested in this stuff, like, just go check it out. If you're not, then just watch my normal content. But like, I really implore you guys to check it out, because it really needs to be like, it really needs to have some decent success, because if it doesn't, my grade slides down to a B, and that's not really okie dokie because I have Asian parents.